Greetings fellow snowflakes! I want to share with you a few thoughts I was having the other day about a more holistic or monistic approach to understanding gender. Let me explain. I'm not a dualist. I don't believe there is some great split between matter and spirit or between mind and body. My spirituality is pantheist, which means any ideas or beliefs I might have about the divine, which is pretty much metaphor anyway, is very much part and parcel of physical reality itself. And the mental, psychological sphere is clearly a product of the physical reality we all inhabit. Minds are products of bodies, i.e. brains. There is not some separate mental substance, Descartes. It's worth bearing in mind that reality exists as a whole, and the different parts of it are interconnected and intertwined. So it follows that when it comes to gender, the same thing may well be true. The biological, psychological and social are all linked, and social gender is connected to and may well be derived from the biological, in some way. Let's look at biological sex. What is it for? Why does it exist? Is it not so that a certain kind of sex can happen, so that reproduction can potentially result from it? That is the purpose of biological sex, if we can speak of evolutionary processes having a purpose. But nature is full of glitches, because it is an automatic process of evolution by natural selection and not the product of some almighty designer. Mistakes and weird anomalies do occur in nature. There are two distinct and different ways that this biological function can go awry. One is that a person can be sexually attracted to people with the same biological anatomy as them. The other possibility is that their brain is wired so as to expect and require to play the opposite role in sex, and presumably reproduction. It can be irritating to have my sexual needs or my desire to play a different sexual role dismissed as having nothing to do with my gender, because it is clear to me that what nature intends my body to do is at complete odds with what my mind feels it should be doing when it comes to sex. And this factor means that I believe that my sexual and romantic life would have worked out a lot better for me if I had been born with female genitals, even though it is women I am sexually attracted to. Another aspect of biological sex is that hormones will affect the way your body develops, resulting in what are called secondary sex characteristics. And these can also feel wrong, like a betrayal of nature. What are you doing giving me muscles on my arms? What are you doing giving me body hair? What are you doing giving me a flat chest and a straight body shape? None of these fits my notions of who I really am or how I should look. There is a mismatch between my psychology and my physiology here, and because I am not a dualist but a monist, I do not believe that the biological and the psychological can be neatly distinguished. So it is totally rational to accept that this is something real and natural, one of nature's glitches in my own biology. Things get trickier when we look at the purely social aspects of gender. Clearly the gender roles and gendered clothing and appearance are very much social conventions that vary from culture to culture, and they are generalizations and stereotypes. Nevertheless, nothing exists in a vacuum. Those stereotypes and generalizations must have come from somewhere, and I believe that the tendency of hormones to affect people's temperament in certain key ways are what result in some of these social conventions. It is a generalization, of course, and exceptions exist all over the place. Consequently, mere deviation from those social norms is not reason enough by itself to conclude that someone's gender differs from what they were assigned at birth. But certain kinds of temperaments may result in someone preferring to look pretty, for example, or rugged, or prefer a certain role in social or romantic interactions. There are trends and tendencies here that possibly result from hormonal differences. And while exceptions are commonplace and do not necessarily result in feeling like your gender is different from your birth sex, nevertheless it should be no great surprise if it is very common for people whose psychology is at odds with their biology to also prefer the roles and expressions of the gender that matches their psychology, especially since those roles and expressions may have been cruelly denied to them all of their lives prior to coming out or transitioning. Then there is the even trickier issue of words, labels and pronouns. A key element of being transgender is that certain words, labels and pronouns just feel right, while others feel wrong. It lights me up to be called lady or ms. I am happy referring to myself as a girl or a lesbian, but terms like man or sir irk me. I hate it. This is complicated because clearly the use of language is very much tied up with the meanings and significance we place on those words and concepts. But I wonder why women like to be referred to in certain ways and men like to be referred to in different ways. I wonder why. Who's this coffee for? It's for that lady over there. Makes me feel so honoured and makes me want to say, yes, that's right, this lady over here. Or why other language around gender, such as being called feminine or terms like dearie or love, feel so nice. I wonder if there's a connection here with the way that certain modes of dress feel like they honour the person you know you are inside. But the interesting thing is that when people are simply non-stereotypical with regards to appearance or roles, and yet their psychology is in line with their anatomical sex, they still prefer to be referred to with words that are in line with their sex, rather than their expression. They will be proud and confident to say and think of themselves as a feminine man, or a butch woman. While those whose psychology conflicts with their anatomical sex will prefer the terms that fit their psychology. What strange trickery is this? Perhaps it just goes to show how closely linked the biological, psychological and social factors really are. Monist, not dualist, remember? So what about non-binary people? Well, although I am starting to realise that in all of the factors mentioned above, I very much am a trans woman and a lesbian too, even though I previously identified as genderqueer or non-binary, I can certainly see that because nature is interconnected, messy and prone to glitches, there absolutely can indeed be people whose psychology is intermediate, who may have complicated feelings about their own bodies that don't fall comfortably into one category or the other, who only feel comfortable and honoured if they are referred to with gender-neutral terms or simply not have gender shoehorned into every social interaction in the first place. And even if they're simply rebelling against the stereotypes and generalisations of social gender by refusing to play that game, then more power to them. And who are they hurting, really? They are even polite enough to say that it's not that everyone should be that way, but it's just what's right for them. Well, let them get on with it and leave them be, I say. They're not hurting anyone. And even if, as it might have been in my case, they are confused or closeted, then don't you dare call them trans-trenders and imply they are cis, really, or all that other crap that true scum do. Can you imagine the damage that can do to someone who is really binary trans, but having a hard time accepting that about themselves? You imply they are cis, really? You call them trans-trenders? You force them back into the closet. How dare you? And this from other transgender people. It's disgusting. You should fucking know better. And so what if they're getting confused between gender expression and gender identity? You still don't know ultimately whether they are confused about that, or closeted about being trans, or genuinely non-binary. It's not your place to decide that for them. Point out the distinction between gender expression and gender identity by all means. But leave them to figure it out for themselves, and don't call them trans-trenders for fuck's sake. I think it is very unlikely that any of them are just pretending for attention. Again, it's disgusting to say that, and people who are transgender themselves and face many of the same accusations should fucking know better. So that's my attempt to talk basic, simple sense on the gender issue, without subscribing to any pseudo-spiritual mind-body split explanations. Everyone is different. Everyone is special. Snowflakes unite. Thanks for watching.
Go on. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't bite, honest. But you can bite me if you like.